Hey you guys, it's Peter, and welcome to my channel, Peterisms, where I tell stories of my life and just little things that I've learned as I have grown into the person that I am today. And today, I have two messages to send to you. Number one, shut up. And number two, listen up. And we're going to talk about those today. Those aren't very nice things to say to people, right? But I think a lot of times that's what we wish we could say to people. I'm sure a lot of people feel like they could say that to me on a regular basis. And I've actually had quite a few people say that to me. So, you know, it's interesting. I am a talker by nature, and I am somebody that talks through my problems, and I am somebody that loves to vent about my problems and get my problems out and say, oh, and then when I'm all done, I'm like, I feel so much better, right? And it's funny because like with my best friend, she and I will talk about things, and Alex does the same thing with me. I'll just go on and on and on and on and on. I can be like cleaning up the house, and then at the end, I just won't have anything else to say. And both of them will look at me and be like, do you feel better now? I'm like, yeah, I totally feel better. I've worked it through. I'm aces, you know? And it's interesting because my supervisor back in the day, I would like come into her office and I would sit down and I would say, God, I would like, you know, belt out all of my frustrations, and she would just sit there and like, and then at the end, I'd be like, you are so good at your job, and she was like, all I do is, I know that you just need to come in here and vent, I just let you vent, that's, you know, and I think that's the thing. I think that, you know, in life, for our friends, the people that we supervise, or our coworkers, our family, sometimes I think we need to know what they need from us. And if we don't know what that is, then ask them what they need from us, you know? And that's a very simple thing to do. When somebody's going through a crisis, instead of problem solving with them, I'm actually thinking about this, and as I'm saying this, it's so funny because my friend Tanya called me earlier today, and she was a little stressed over something, and I was talking to her, and I was giving her solutions to this problem, and she said to me, see, like this is where I constantly learn by sharing these messages with you guys, because I'm not a perfect person. I continue to grow on a daily basis and am reminded of these lessons. But when I got done with it, and I was very much like talking from a spiritual point of view, that I do believe that, you know, my higher power puts me through things or has a plan on some level. And I know not everybody believes that, and you don't have to, but I personally do, that there's a plan for things and there's a way that things are supposed to happen. And not necessarily, you know, I do believe we have free will. But I think for sometimes it's like the message from Oprah, you know, and when she was talking to Maya Angelou, and Maya Angelou said to her that when you are in the middle of the biggest crisis in your life, look up and say thank you, because the learning experience, what you're going to gain from it on the other side, is so phenomenal. I'm laughing because this is what I shared with Tanya, and she's like, yeah, I'm not there today. And so thank you so much. I mean, that we're honest with each other, you know, but in the middle of the biggest crisis, look up and say thank you. Because what you're going to gain from that experience, what you're going to learn from going through with it, is greater than what's happening to you. But a lot of us forget that, and it's really hard in that moment, you know, and I was sharing with Tanya, I was like, in the last couple years, like some of the hardest things I've gone through, like in that moment, I have to sit there and be like, I know that there's like a better plan for this. I have to believe that for myself, and that's not religiosity, okay? That's what I believe of the world, whether it's the universe or, you know, spirituality or whatever. But one of the things that has been very, very hard for me as a talker all my life, and as someone that also likes to do puzzles and play games and, you know, like solve mysteries and things like that, is that I am by nature a problem solver. So if you call me on the phone and you say, hey, I don't know, you know, this is, even if you don't say, I don't know what to do, if you just say, this is what's going on with me, I'm immediately going to go into solution mode. I don't know, do a lot of you do that out there? I find that in the world, we are either solution oriented, or we're like response oriented. And what that means is that we kind of sit there and then respond to it when asked, you know? And what's interesting is that both my husband and I are very much problem solvers. So when the other person has like a problem that they're going through, and like if Alex is going through something, I immediately want to solve it and give him the solution, and vice versa. And it's been, you know, something that we've had to work through as far as communicating, because a lot of times, neither one of us wants to hear that. And so we have to say to the other person, hey, I really appreciate the feedback, but like maybe right now I just need you to listen to me, you know? And that's where we can ask the other person what they need from us, whether it's a friend, you know, and I've learned to do that with Tanya, and I've learned to do that with like my cousin Caroline and other people in my life, that when they're going through something, to just suit up and show up and be there for them and say, what do you need from me right now, you know? And a lot of times that's a selfish comment to bring it back to us, but maybe we need to be reminded of that. if we can't, like in that moment, guess what they need for us, right? And, you know, what's interesting to me is I have really backed away in the last 5 or 10 years from being a problem solver. I had a friend of mine, he's still a very good friend of mine, but back in the day we were talking and he was really going through some tough shit. And, you know, we were talking on the phone, and every time he would say something, I would kind of like, you know, jump in and be like, oh, well, this is what you should do, or this is what you should do. Which is interesting because when people say to me, this is what you should do, or this is what you need to do, I don't respond to that very well, you know? And he just kind of like paused on the phone for a second. And he said, you know, Peter, he goes, you're really good at solving people's problems. And he goes, and a lot of the things that you suggest are great. He was like, but right now, I really just need a friend to listen to me. And it was a poignant moment in my life because it was a very simple thing that a friend was asking from me, but yet it went against everything that I know in my life is who I am. I'm a problem solver, I'm a talker, you know, all that kind of stuff. And, you know, that was where I really had, and that was when I was probably 22, 23 years old. That was like long before my career, you know, of which was being a listener. And so it was over time that I really learned how to actively listen, which is funny because when you go to like, you know, communication courses or you like take, you know, classes in counseling or whatever, or psychology, active listening is a term that people, you know, use. And what that means is, you know, you don't just hear what they're saying and you continue going through your day. You really listen to what they're saying. You know, you're attentive to what they're saying. And one of the things that used to drive me crazy with my mom was that, like, I would come over to her house and we would be like sitting there talking and she'd be like making dinner or cleaning the dishes or whatever. And I'd be telling her something about my life and she'd say, And I would say, Mom, you're not listening to me. And she would say, I've heard everything that you said. I can repeat it back to you. And I would say, you've heard what I said, but you aren't listening. You aren't like, you know, internalizing what I'm saying and being able to respond to it in a conversation, which is really what I need from people a lot of times, you know? And I am somebody that likes to hear other people's opinions and what I should do, you know? What's interesting is I'm blessed to have 2 people in my life, Tanya and my husband, that have no problem being 100% honest with me and telling me exactly what they think. And so, you know, like a lot of times they'll say to me, you know, this is the truth right here. You need to look at it like this. And, you know, just as like an example, like let's say if, you know, like my husband and I get into an argument about something stupid, right? And I'll go talk to Tanya about it and I'll be like, cause she and I, that's a good thing for having, you know, Alex has his best friend and I have my best friend and we vent sometimes, you know, about relationships, and that's part of what keeps a relationship healthy. So like if I go to Tanya and I'll say, oh yeah, this is what happened, whatever, and she'll just go, and I'll say, well, what do you think? And she'll say, I don't think you want to know what I think. And I'll say, no, like really, I do. What do you think? And she'll say, well, I think that Alex is in the right in that situation and you need to go home and apologize to him, right? And I'm like, okay, really? Do you think that? She's like, yeah, I really do. You know, like I think that you know, overreacted and whatever. And so like I'll go home with my tail between my legs and I'll look at Alex and I'll go, I'm sorry, like, you know, I really need to own my shit. And in the past, okay, like before we like really had great communication, because today our communication is phenomenal, but before that, like I would say to him, I really need to own my shit, and he would say, because that's kind of recovery stuff, you know, making amends, and he would say, yeah, you do. I would be like, oh, like, can you just own your part of it too? But that's not the point, you know? The point is listening to the other person and what their needs are. And sometimes what that person's needs are, it's just as simple as you owning your shit in a situation and saying it won't happen again, you know? And a lot of times I need to be told what my part is in something because I don't see it. You know, if you have a friend that continuously over and over and over again complains about the same situation, you know, a lot of times it's like, well, what's your part in that? But that's a hard thing to say to a friend unless they ask for that, you know? And so sometimes what I say to friends, or what friends will say to me is, hey, do you mind if I give my 2 cents? Is asking permission to give some feedback or to help. Because a lot of times what people need from us is just for us to shut up and listen to them. And, you know, in the last, let's say 5 years, I have really, really focused a lot on, you know, calm and serenity in my daily life. And as a result of that, and pausing on things too. You know, when something comes up, I push the pause button. I'm big on the pause button, right? And I don't immediately respond to what somebody's saying or what they're doing, as far as like, even if it's just like a problem in their life. I don't need to, like, when they say, I don't need to right back, right? I can push the pause button, just sit there, and allow them to continue to talk and have their time. And I truly do think that's what a good friend is all about. A good friend is somebody that A, will tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear. And B, a friend is somebody that meets you where you're at. And if on that day they need you just to listen, then you need to shut your mouth and just listen. I love you guys, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.